social distancing. Supposed to be about 5 to 6 feet apart. No, don't touch them if you need to be wearing gloves before you touch them.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Lloyd.
Nice
I've been
to
talking
meet
to
you.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry that you.
No, you're fine. You stay over there. I got it. I don't want to violate any rules.
You're going to be fine over here. The wind's blowing in this direction.
Are they doing anything with ribbons or not?
It, Jenny, normally ribbons are worn by children, but
Yes.
you are her children, so do you want to wear ribbons?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got a for you. Okay. The service is going to be, well, number one, if you have a cell phone, please put it into silent mode. And we have two people officiating today, Michelle Vogel-Rose, who's a funeral celebrant, and Eileen Harris, who's a reverend.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my sad honor to welcome each of you with gratitude and appreciation for showing your support with your presence here today. We remember Ruth by mourning our loss and celebrating her life, by honoring her memory and paying tribute to her, by sharing this time together in a very personal experience. As outgoing and social that Ruth was, we know that she would not have wanted a somber event to focus on the end of her life. As we share a common bond of love and friendship for Ruth, it is fitting that we should reflect on Ruth's time with us and on the influences she had in all of our lives. So we will talk about the more positive aspects of her life now and how she shared that life with us. But first, it's an ancient Jewish ritual to tear one's clothing when in mourning. Now we wear a ribbon representing the tear in our hearts at the loss of our beloved Ruth. Just as the tear in the ribbon can never be repaired, so can the tear in our hearts never be repaired. Wearing the ribbon permits us to release our emotions and express to others that the fabric of our lives has been torn. Our connections with other people give our lives meaning. We are joined to the people we love by bonds of affection and mutual need. Love transcends nature, weaving together the living and the dead in the loving embrace of meaningful memory. We who survive are the keepers of memory. Grief may return at unexpected moments. A family event, a special life cycle transition, or even an ordinary day can bring an instant of sadness. And that is entirely as it should be. For we do not want to forget that Ruth ever existed. At best, we become accustomed to the world without her active presence. An ancient Hebrew proverb tells us to say not in grief she is no more, but live in thankfulness that she was. For that reason, thankful to have had Ruth in our lives, we remember her as the devoted daughter of the late Benjamin and Sarah Cohen, as the loving sister of the late twin Celeste and her late husband Eugene Shedroff, and the late Dorothy Jones, as the favorite aunt of Barbara and husband Gregory Johnston, Jenny and husband Charles Winters, Sandy Locklear, Dodie Bertram, and June and husband Robert Maher, and the proud great aunt of Alan and Nathan Johnston, Blake, Trevor, and Gabriella Winters, David Bertram, and the late Dory Locklear. I now invite Reverend Eileen Harris, a longtime friend of Ruth's, to share.
Okay, stay where you're at, Ruth.
Over here.
Okay. Sure. I didn't realize you were sharing the same book.
Okay. Is this being recorded? Oh, I see.
It's being
It
live
is.
streamed, and right now there are 13 people signed into the
Wonderful.
live stream.
Well, we
which-
welcome everyone, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, welcome to all that are viewing.
It starts on the right page, I think. The right side.
Ruth is glad that we are here to remember her and to give thanks for her today. I met Ruth and Celeste as a chaplain for their mother, Sarah, a while ago. And in time, Ruth claimed me as a friend. I was especially honored by Ruth's calling me Rabbi, even though I am a Lutheran pastor. Today, I am both grateful to Chaplain Rose and honored to remember Ruth along with all of you. When you think of Ruth, is there a word that pops into your mind? As I started thinking, lots of words started popping out to me. Strong-willed, sharp, perceptive, ethical, fighter, faithful, opinionated, protective, helpful, loving, witty, hardworking, resourceful, fierce, stubborn. I see heads nodding here. And this is something I learned from Jenny. Queen of intelligent advice. And lastly, life well lived. And perhaps you would add more. Yet how can words do justice to or fully describe her? After their father's illness and untimely death, 2-year-old Ruth and her twin Celeste were raised by Mother Sarah and older sister Dorothy. As Ruth described it, they grew up in the projects with their mother working 2 jobs. They were especially close to Dorothy, who pretty much raised them. If you knew Ruth and Celeste, you knew and know that they grew to be loving, upstanding, and wonderful people. Ruth graduated from Wells High School in Chicago and went into a long career in office management with Globe Glass for many years, and lastly, the William Potter Company. Early on, she ventured briefly into restaurant ownership in New Jersey before resuming her career in Chicago. When I met Ruth, she was semi-retired. She and Celeste, known as the dynamic duo, baked for and managed part-time the Cookies in Bloom store in Glenview. When we shared conversation over lunch, at the Omega, or over the phone, Ruth often shocked me with wise, pithy statements, putting everything into perspective. And then there were times when, with true caution, her unsolicited advice also came through to me. Very socially and people-oriented, Ruth knew her Niles neighbors well and maintained long-time friendships with others. Not too long ago, and over Ruth's objections, one friend, Cheryl, walked into her door with a tiny buff colored puppy on her arm. Reluctantly, Ruth agreed to give the puppy a 1-week trial, and the rest is history. Spunky had come into her life. And then a year ago, when cancer entered her life, Spunky, along with family and friends, gained ever more increasing importance. Not surprisingly, Ruth chose to fight the cancer, and with the support of family, chose bravely to consider assisted living with two priorities. Spunky would be with her, and she would be reasonably close to friends. She also found certain passages from the Hebrew Psalms and prophets meaningful, which she posted on the wall into her apartment. Always socially involved and concerned, Ruth befriended her dining table partners and the staff, often sharing genuine concerns and advice. Bingo games were one of many joys in between series of chemo treatments. However, when the COVID-19 restrictions fell into place recently for everyone's protection, they fell especially hard on Ruth. Ultimately, she decided her time had come. Ruth passed over during this year's Passover. It is customary to read a woman of valor from the book of Proverbs at the funeral for a Jewish woman. And I would like to read a contemporary version by Eric S. Kingston, dedicated to all the women like Ruth who showed what true strength is. A woman of valor makes the world change. Her strength is the content that guides through the days, defined by her actions that bring light to all dreams. Valor is something that's defined by her deeds. Her valor is golden, sparkled, and gray. She stands up to the challenge no matter the way. It can't be held back or defined by her age. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. For valor's not held by the young or the old, but by the deeds of the heart that give and unfold. It's merit and honor that hold no disguise, like the creation of being in the blessed Holy One's eyes. For valor is the color of the song of her soul, as she changes, creates, and turns light into gold. Divine is her presence, be it joyous or sad. A woman of valor may offer little, but it will all be all that she has. For only her heart will know the depths of her soul that nurtures and blossoms and forever unfolds and holds in its essence new life and new gain. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. A woman of valor makes the world change. And now we have the celebrants' tribute.
Ruth made the world change, one person at a time, by the impact she had on each and every person she met in her life. Jenny, you called her a social butterfly who loved interacting with friends, family, and even strangers. The meaning of the name Ruth is companion or friend, a name for which Ruth Cohen was so well suited. It could be said of her that her hobby was collecting friends, as she made friends easily anywhere she went. She was a devoted friend, keeping in touch by remembering birthdays and anniversaries of friends and family. She could and would talk to anyone, anywhere, about anything, emulating Barbara Walters. Ruth was a good conversationalist, a good storyteller who kept her listeners' interest, wanting to entertain them, being the life of the party. If the topic of conversation veered into unfamiliar territory for her, she subtly changed the subject. Maybe not so subtly, you're saying? Okay. She asked advice from people who knew more than she did. She listened to the opinions of people she respected and whose outlooks she valued. At Brookdale, the senior living facility where she spent her final years, she was first seated for meals with a group of people who didn't talk much. She quickly requested to be changed to another table, saying, "I can't sit with them, they don't talk. Put me with other people." Fortunately, that change was made, allowing Ruth to enjoy her new table mates. Ruth grew up in a very poor family, living in the Cabrini townhouse projects before they were the high-rise Cabrini Green housing projects. She learned to hold her own, living in a tough neighborhood. Being Jewish was important to her, but due to the family's lack of financial resources, she had no Jewish education. But she knew she had a Jewish soul, and later enjoyed spending the Jewish holidays with her nieces and their families. From childhood, it was clear that she was a leading lady, playing a starring role, enjoying being the center of attention, in contrast to her twin Celeste, who was quieter, more reserved, and content with a supporting role. As twins, they were very close, and Celeste was Ruth's wind beneath her wings. To Ruth's boisterous personality, Celeste provided a voice of reason. Ruth wasn't afraid of anything, always up for trying new things, taking calculated risks, weighing the options before making a decision. So it's no surprise to anyone that Ruth dragged Celeste into adventures. However, Celeste and Dorothy were the mischievous ones, trying to get Ruth in trouble, as they perceived her to be their mother's favorite. As Ruth never married nor had children, she was always a part of Celeste's family, even after Celeste married. Celeste's husband, Eugene, called them Bubby Tanti, all one word, as they came as a set. Bubby is the Yiddish word for grandmother, and Tanti is the Yiddish word for aunt. Ruth was very close with her nieces and nephews, even those who live in Florida. Her nieces' husbands became nephews by marriage, and Ruth easily earned the title of everyone's favorite aunt. To Ruth, family came first, whether family by birth or by marriage, as her nieces' in-laws included her in all their holiday celebrations also. When out-of-town family visited Chicago, they often stayed with her, as she made them feel welcome and often hosted family gatherings for them. The medical cause of Ruth's deaths may have been ovarian cancer, but we know it really was the social isolation of the current shelter-in-place environment, as she failed to thrive without the social contact she so dearly loved. She did have her little dog Spunky with her. She considered Spunky her baby, her best friend. To honor her cancer fight, I would like to read a poem entitled, "What Cancer Cannot Do." What cancer cannot do. Cancer is so limited, it cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot eat away peace. It cannot destroy confidence. It cannot kill friendships. It cannot suppress memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot quench the spirit. It cannot defeat the soul. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of anyone is love, give it away. Share the love Ruth has given you with others, and keep her memory alive through her love that remains in your hearts. It's in the pamphlet. So now I invite, again, Reverend Eileen to read a psalm entitled "The Psalm of the Shepherd Healer," an interpretation of the 23rd Psalm that she and Ruth enjoyed sharing.
A couple days ago, as Ruth was declining, I had the honor and good fortune to talk with her via the hospice nurse's phone. And I explained about the 23rd Psalm, the Hebrew Psalm, and its origins. And then I read this adaptation of the 23rd Psalm because it seemed especially appropriate. It talks about walking through pain, although at that point she was not in pain and was comfortable, as I want you to know. So this is how it begins. It's an adaptation. Psalm of the Shepherd Healer. The Lord is my healer. I shall not hurt. He makes a peaceful place for me to rest. He leads me into healing waters that restore my soul. He guides me in the way of wholeness. Even though I walk through the valley of pain, I will know God's presence, for you are with me. Your people and your promise comfort me. You give me hope and meaning, and I am filled with your love. Surely peace and joy will be with me all the days of my life, and I will live with you, O God, forever. Amen.
And I will read the Hebrew. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bin ot deshet yarbatseni, al me menuchot yanachaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo, gam ki elech b'geit salmovet, lo ira ra, ki ata imadi, shiftecha umishantecha, hema yanachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorai, Dishanta Vashem and Roshi, Kosi Rivaya. Achtova Chesed Yurdafuni, Kol Yamei Chayai, V'shavti B'veit Adonai, La'orech Yamim. Amen. Many people call the Kaddish prayer a prayer for the dead, but nowhere does it mention death. However, the prayer, God filled with compassion, speaks of how the soul, having sojourned in the physical world, is now restored to the everlasting source of life, to the continuum of being, reality, and holy presence. Do you want to read it?
In English.
What?
The Kaddish?
No, the God full of compassion.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
So this is the God full of compassion. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May the memory of Ruth Cohen be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds. May the bond of love we shared with our beloved Ruth be not severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
And I will read it in Hebrew now. El malei rachamim shochen b'mromim, hamatzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashekhinah, v'ma'alot kadoshim u'tahorim k'zohar harakia, mazhirim et nishmat Ruth bat Benyamin v'Sarah, hayakara shalanu sheholacha la'olama. Began Eden tehei menuchata, lachein bal harachamim, yastireha v'seter kanafav la'olamim. V'titzor b'tzor hachayim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach al mishkava b'shalom, v'nomar amen. Let us pause now to be still, to breathe in each moment of life with a sense of gratitude for its gifts of family, friends, and love. We pause to affirm that we are all part of an endless and mysterious cycle of existence, of life and death. May those who loved Ruth be granted the gifts of wisdom, courage, and thanksgiving that will give them acceptance and peace. And do you want to lower the casket?
Okay.
Do you want to do that now?
Yes.
I was going to also add something that was on the end of my meditation about, and I wanted to share the fact that Celeste and Ruth were companions in birth, right? And now, as she's laid to rest, they rest to eternal life together.
Thank you. Wasn't that in there?
It was at the end of my meditation. I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
For some reason, it came to my mind. And that we're laying them to rest as they entered life together. Now they rest together towards eternal life. Life eternal. Did I miss it?
Oh, yeah, it's there.
It is there?
Go ahead. Remove the flowers, please.
So sorry.
Right there is good.
As the casket is lowered, let us take a few private moments to say farewell to Ruth, to think of her as you remember her, to silently reflect what it has meant to you to experience Ruth's presence, remembering how her generosity, her outgoing personality, her loving friendships, her gutsy friendliness, and her caring ways impacted each of your lives. Goodbye to our dear Ruth. With the big heart, we know we are all better for having known her. We are profoundly grateful that Ruth lived. We are grateful that we saw her face and felt the glow of her friendship and her love. We cherish the memory of her words, her deeds, and her character. Carrying her thus in our hearts, we can proceed from this place in comfort and in peace, assured that even in this time of loss and sorrow, life remains precious and good. May we also on this day rekindle in our hearts an appreciation of the gifts of life and of the people in our life. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish, we are reminded that this prayer never mentions death, but we use it to remember our dead. We insist on saying that life is good and worth living, and we insist on holding fast to our dreams and ideals of what life could be in the best of all possible worlds. Please join Reverend Eileen in reading the Kaddish in the English from your service booklet.
So we read this together, good people. Together. Exalted and hallowed be God's greatness in this world of your creation. May your will be fulfilled and your sovereignty revealed in the days of our lifetime. And let us say, Amen. May you be blessed forever, praised and honored, extolled and glorified, adored and exalted above all else. You are blessed beyond all blessings and hymns, praises and adorations that may be uttered in this world. And let us say Amen. May abundant peace descend from heaven with life's goodness for us and for all the world. And let us say Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say Amen.
In your service booklets, you have the Hebrew transliteration. Please join me in reading that. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה משמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. So says shalom b'nova, ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. It's also a Jewish custom to pour some earth from Israel onto the casket, showing our connection with Israel. Gravesite to shovel some earth onto the grave. No, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that, but we will have an opportunity to take a flower and place that
Okay.
into the grave.
So you can, after it's lowered, you can each put a flower on the grave. As we close this celebration of Ruth Cohen's life, I paraphrase the late author and lecturer Leo Buscaglia, who said, "I know for certain that we never lose the people we love, even to death. Ruth will continue to participate in every act, in every thought, and in every decision we make. Her love leaves an indelible imprint. We find tremendous comfort in knowing that our lives have been enriched by knowing her. Ruth was and always will remain a part of you. Treasure Ruth's memory. Hold those memories close to you still. You will carry Ruth with you always in your heart. The sharp edges of this pain, this relentless sadness will, in due time, give way to something gentler, something more bearable. As you return to the routines of your lives, go in love and in peace, and may an abiding peace go with you." And as soon as they're done and you everyone can put a flower on the casket, remembering to keep the 6 feet social distance, and that would conclude our service after we finish that. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.